Good evening, everybody. For those of you who are joining us live, I've just very cruelly interrupted Ian's story about the Magic Weekend.
There was nothing to do with the Magic Weekend. It was me drinking Ray Nephew and losing the.
It literally just went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Yeah. Laura, we have to be on time. Do you know what I mean?
Clearly.
Everything else goes out the window, but the timekeeping is essential. Good evening, yes, everybody. It's Friday. It's April Fools, and as you can see, we are joined by a plethora of fools. I am joined this evening by Laura. Good evening, Laura. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
And underneath Laura there, we've got Scott sporting. Oh, we're knocking the Castoria out here, aren't we?
Scott, hello, everyone.
How are you doing, mate?
I know it's freezing over here. I don't know what it's like over there, but
snowing.
Some snow overnight, and then it's ice winds.
Nobody's got the heating on here, so it's absolutely boiling in every household. I think everybody's invested in blankets and all sorts because we're all. I mean, the choice for this evening is either watch your smart meter or watch this. So, this one isn't going to cost you anything, so you might as well watch this because the other one you might as well bloody ignore it because they just make it up as they go along. Anyway, let's not get too political. And of course, as ever, our Tinder Tino Aspria, Ian joins us.
He's quite clearly not been in the vicinity where we've had a conversation. I've came off it, mate. It's just that bad.
Yeah.
So
completed it.
Right, the Bumble Boom song then.
The Bumble Boom song came off that as well.
How are you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm sound, yeah. You know what it is? I'm really good. Really, really good.
Good. You're looking good.
Thanks,
good. Right.
I had a fresh shave just for the night.
Yes, I thought so.
When I say shave, I just stood out because the wind blew. Can't really grow a good beard.
Well, I think we all pale into insignificance when it comes to beards because I know Scott can get a right grow on there.
I can. The first lockdown, you should see it. I'll put pictures in the group. It was.
He's got it. Yeah, it was long.
But mine grows straight. It's straight long, and it doesn't look that great. So it's not like a bushy beard. Anyway,
is it like a ZZ Top beard?
Aye, doesn't look the best. And I've got a great streak that can's doing one bit as well.
Ask your grandparents about ZZ Top, ladies and gentlemen. Laura, I'll start with you. We might as well get straight into it. We've got quite a lot actually going on this week, and of course, we've got the Hall of Fame. Actually, Laura, just before I come to you, I'll just say thank you to all those people who are joining us live. I've got a comment already from Tom there, I'm sure he's got an absolute Rolodex of foolish incidents like all of us do. I mean, they just roll off the tongue, don't they, unfortunately? So, we're going to go into the Hall of Fame and we're going to take it a little bit of we're going to go west a little bit because obviously it's April Fool's Day today, or it has been April Fool's Day up until 12 o'clock because you're the fool after 12 o'clock. And we're going to think of the most foolish moments in the history of Newcastle United. So please get involved in the comments and, of course, on Twitter as well. Laura, sorry about that. I'll come back to you. Laura, brilliant. Ready for the weekend. Looking forward to the Spuds game at 4:30 on Sunday. Laura, 3,000 fans going down there. Looks like we've got John Joe back and a few other players. Are we looking forward to this game, Laura?
I am. I really am. And I don't know if it's just because we haven't had any football for a while or football that I'm interested in. But yeah, I am. And I can't remember. Did I say, I said we'd lose this one, didn't I?
You said, Laura, you've got a loss. Roger, that's me. I went with a draw. Scott, you went with the loss. Ian went with the loss. So I'm the only one who's kind of think we're going to get the.
Can I change your mind? I was teaching a lesson on positivity today this afternoon,
right?
And I kind of
like stayed with you.
Yeah. Well, no, I was explaining what a positive attitude is, and now like loads of the lads in my class like football now. So I was saying. So if I was thinking positive, I would say that we're going to win on Sunday. And they're all like, yeah, we're going to win. So they've rubbed off on us. So, yeah.
You're going to go win?
I just think we've had that break. They seem like they've bonded really well. I was just listening to Callum Wilson's podcast and he was talking really positively. And I think all the positivity is entered my mind. And now I am, just with it being on TV and stuff as well, like, I think... Yeah, but they're protesting or something. I just read today, aren't they? So maybe they'll be distracted. So.
Yeah. I think about the LGBTQ plus situation in Saudi. I think they're protesting that. Probably it'll be something about us as well. But there we go. That's the price on the ticket, unfortunately, as the modern day Newcastle United. So, Scott, I mean, it's a big game coming up. There is a preview that was done yesterday, so we're not going to kind of go over the Spurs game and really get deep into it. But Scott, are you expecting? I mean, you went with a draw, I think. Yep. So you went with a draw. Are you hopeful? I mean, Tottenham are on a good run. What are you expecting? A score draw, an outs each, or what do you reckon?
I think I said this last week. It's very tough to judge with Spurs at the minute. They're kind of up and down. It really depends what Spurs team turns up, and it really depends if they get the crowd on their backs or if they get the crowd behind them. I think in the last, 10 games, they've had 4 losses, but they're against like Southampton, Wolves, Burnley, and Man U. And I mean, we've took points off all them teams recently. So you look at it that way, maybe we could get something from it. Maybe we'll get that positive attitude for everybody, and we'll maybe change our draw to a win. Fingers crossed. But like I said, it entirely depends on whether or not Spurs get going from the kickoff. But I think the 2-3 weeks off that we've had will do us a world of good. I know Eddie Howe was talking about with the day in his press conference that they've really benefited from the trip. So I don't know what Newcastle side are going to turn up either. Like we've had a few poor performances but scraped results, and then we've had a few poor performances and obviously not got the results in the last 2. Although performance wasn't too bad, but still we could just turn around and actually smash it out the park. I like to think this is a bit of a bogey side against Spurs. Like I think we are their bogey team ever since kind of the 4-1 that relegation season. I kind of think we always do well. Plus, Joe Linton loves the goal against Spurs, so he's going to bang a hat trick.
We'll take that. Ian, what are you expecting against Spurs? You went with a draw as well.
Did I? I thought I went for a loss. That positivity is catching you.
You did go for a loss. Yeah, you did go for a loss.
It's spilling out of his paper. Because obviously, like you say, you don't know what Spurs team's gonna sort of show up. They've been very hot and cold this season. Obviously, the international break as well. Like teams, I always find that teams that build momentum and then have the international break, it's probably not like they don't want it. Whereas, like if you're on the back of 2 losses, which we have been, the international break's a welcome sort of welcome break. And like you say, we've been away. It looks like the team's bonded really well. And I said last week, sort of the last trip that we went out there, that was the start of the unbeaten run. So, do I want to change my prediction?
Go on.
You know what it is? I'll just sit on the fence and go and draw. I think we might scrape a draw. Might be 1-1.
Good lad. We'll take that. Okay, so as I said before, there is a preview online as well as I believe Matty might have done a Beyond the Lines as well. Laura, I think if you keep
I watched it yesterday. It was good, and I just seen a comment in there of fishing rods, as he's just said the key areas there fullbacks. And we've got Max, and if we've got Maxi, and the guy from Spurs, the Spurs fan, said exactly that. He said our fullbacks are poor. And
Emerson Royale.
He said
he's really poor him.
And so he was a bit nervous if Maxi was playing. So hopefully Maxi will be starting and make an impact.
It feels like an Alan St. Maximum kind of game and a kind of moment, isn't it? Like our mercurial players, against Tottenham, we do have a little bit of history with that. So I'm really hopeful for the game on Sunday, particularly after the kind of the feeling that you got from Eddie Howe after the trip away, and the news on Trippier coming in, not so good on Callum Wilson, which we'll kind of touch on in a minute. But just while we're talking about that Tottenham game and Beyond the Lines, you can become a member and you get that extra content a little bit earlier. £2.99 to join. You also get access to the Telegram group as well, which is really, really, it's a real hub for Newcastle United fans. It's absolutely buzzing night and day. It's a proper battery drainer, as I think Mark called it. So do get involved. It really helps the channel to produce more content, and we get wonderful people like this talking Newcastle United as well. So please, please, please get involved with that, please. Okay, so I suppose I'm gonna kind of dot around a little bit, Laura. I don't like to go into any sort of rules and that.
I'm a bit on edge because you haven't given a rundown of what order you're going to talk about. So when you keep saying, Laura, I'm going to come to you, I keep panicking, thinking, what the hell?
Because
I've only prepared one thing.
All right, okay, Laura, and he has me getting battered on Twitter for not giving you opportunity to show off your homework, as somebody put it. I think so. I try my best. I do my best. News this week. We kind of feel like we've hit a bit of an impasse with Dan Ashworth and his appointment. Looks like Brighton, which is their right, are kind of holding out, making it quite difficult for us. And it looks like we might only get to have him on board in November. Scott, I'll come to you on this one. Are you confident going forward into the summer transfer window if this isn't resolved, which I have a feeling it will be resolved and there'll be some money changes hands. But Scott, are you confident with Amanda, Murdad, War Murdad? Are you confident with the transfer team that were really successful in the summer in the winter transfer window? Are you hopeful? And are you confident that Eddie Howe and the rest, with Steve Nixon, of course, can get the job done and get those players in that we so vitally need, and importantly, get some players out?
I think I am. It's a lot was said about what happened in January and how we didn't get players in quick enough and whatever. But one, it's the January transfer window. You never get players in with it, quick. It always gets drawn out. And two, I mean, if you think about Eddie Howe, he also had a team to train and save from a relegation battle, which is obviously still going on if you listen to him today. But I think in the summer window, Maidan and Amanda will have the experience of the last one. They'll know who the tire kickers are, to use Mike Ashley's phrase there, and they'll know who they can deal with. And I think they'll be a lot better prepared in terms of, we have a list of players that we'll probably want right now. And there's probably talks going on behind the scenes with those players right now. We're not being dropped in at the deep end. We've had time to prepare. So, yes, it would probably be really nice to get Ashworth in and have him implement his philosophy. But I've no doubt that they're probably talking to him as well. Get his ideas in. I must say, he's going to have an outstanding garden by the end of this as well. I think about 9 months. He's going to
put the picture on the WhatsApp. It was good.
It was a good crowd. It's going to be some garden. But no, I think, like Eddie Howe touching it today, he's like, I have no problems being a director of football if I need to be, and I think he'll get the players that he wants, and I think it's just going to be, no problems. I just don't think Ashworth isn't going to be doing all the negotiations and everything. Yeah. He's going to be sending out the teams to do what they need to do. So it's just they don't have that man at the top to pull the strings.
Yeah, Ian, are you kind of confident that maybe obviously Ashworth is going to come in and he's going to look it's not just transfers. So with Eddie Howe and Jason Tinnell being kind of on the ground, watching games and are you confident that they'll be able to get those vital players in where?
Yes, I still think, obviously, sort of to echo what Scott said, January's a very difficult, a very difficult window to navigate anyway. That with the added fact that I think we're bottom 19th at the time. Yeah. They've brought in really good players, good proven Premier League quality. And I think, obviously, given that it's going to be the first sort of proper summer transfer window, people are going to expect massive names. I don't think that's the sort of the way that we'll go for it. I think we'll just sort of we'll look at who the weakest links are in the squad, get an improvement on them, and then just keep sort of building season upon season. And I think for the now, I think sort of the people that will be involved with that will do a good enough job sort of without Ashworth. But again, sort of to agree with Scott and yourself, there's probably conversations behind the scenes as to this is what player will want. This is what's your opinion. So I think for the summer transfer window, be absolutely fine. And then it's looking further afield into the seasons after that. That's when you want sort of the bigger players, the better quality players coming in.
Laura, just a quick comment here from Fish and Rods. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a bit of a league table came out about agents' fees from February 21 till January 2022, which I'm assuming obviously has included the business that we did. And we were 5th from bottom with £7 million spent, which, I suppose nobody wants to see these agents get, millions and millions of pounds. Everybody's got to get paid. But Laura, do we expect that value to go higher next season at the same, this time next season we'll be looking at mid-table, higher up?
I think way higher. I knew you were going to ask us this one, and this was the one I didn't fully understand, but whatever. I don't really understand the behind the scenes and the agent crack, but from what you're saying, I think Newcastle, the way they are now, even we saw in January, it was with possibly Lingard, where it was just like they were just going to ask like ridiculous amounts because they know like how rich we are, and I think that'll be the same with the agents. They're not stupid. Agents are like the slyest people around, so they're gonna obviously push that luck. They've probably seen that table and thought, right, that'll be going up next year. So I've got no doubt at all that agents will be pushing their luck and demanding more money, especially because obviously the caliber of players that we're going to look for are going to be hopefully better. So obviously the agents are going to be better, and it is just going to go up and up and up. And
I think some of that money, the players who've renegotiated contracts, we did have a lot of players who renegotiated contracts, and I'm going to assume, although that makes an ass out of me and you, that the agent will get a kickback from a player who renews his contract. I'm fairly confident in saying that. So it's a modest fee comparatively speaking. I mean, there was teams probably, I haven't got the table to hand, but I imagine Everton's quite high up there, and they're in absolute dire straits. They're in a real pickle money wise. So we'll see. And of course, 7 million could pay Ashley's tax bill. That league table will probably look similar to everybody's gas and electric bills by the end of the year, probably. So I think you have two mentions of gas and electric.
We haven't been signing many players anyway, so we haven't been dealing with that many agents. But also we've had low transfer fees, and I would imagine agent fees are a percentage of the transfer fee or a percentage of the wage bill or whatever it is. So we're going to be paying more for players, which will, as a domino effect, means we'll be paying more in agent fees.
Yeah, I mean, it's all gonna start to add up very, very soon. So good luck to us. Good luck to Eddie Howe and his team and Murdad.
We've got the money. Doesn't matter.
Aye, we've got the money. We'll be alright. So just while we're kind of talking about signings and transfers that we've had, Ian, I'm going to come to you. Hopefully everybody saw and everybody was purring over Bruno's, the highlights at least from Brazil's game against Bolivia, and Bruno Guimaraes. That's my attempt at I'm going to stick with it. Scored he had an absolute belter of a game. Ian, did he see the game, and what did you make of his performance, or from the clips that we saw?
Just from the clips.
Your appetite for Sunday?
It did, and like you said, I think it was his first start for Brazil. I think I heard a goal and assist, and then I think that's Eddie. I'm sure it was the press conference today. I think I seen Keith Downey tweet saying that Eddie Howe's got a real selection problem in midfield. So obviously, I think, to be honest, the couple of games that he's played, he featured against Southampton, obviously got his goal. Thought he did quite well against Chelsea. I thought it was a different side of the game that he was seeing from sort of the cameos that we've had recently. Sure. And then against Everton, thought he done very well. So be interesting to see sort of what Eddie Howe's selection is. Obviously, you've got Joe Linton in form. Again, I think he missed a couple of games, and I think we did miss him. And then you've got Shelby obviously coming back fit. So you've Joe Willock, who's hit a bit of form as well. So as I think we're seeing sort of couple of weeks in a row, it's a good problem to have. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing sort of to kick off for Bruno to kick on in the rest of the season and show his real quality.
Yeah, I mean, he looked absolutely fantastic in the clips. Obviously, everybody would look great in clips, don't they? But you know, he did have such an impact on the game, especially playing such an important position for such a. I think they might have just gone to the top of the world rankings, possibly. Don't quote us on that. Laura, speaking of our midfield, I'm sure the cockles of your heart were warmed by the video of Joe Willock and his dog, talking about his dog, little 22-year-old with his dog and his dad. Like,
oh no.
Laura, did your heart just melt when you saw that
I
video?
just thought I forget how old I am and how young he is, and he just came across like a little kid, didn't he? And he was I felt so sorry for him when he said about like he's got no friends up here in the city and he lives with his dad and he's
Joe,
we'll be his friend.
We'll be your friend, brother.
We'd be such a bad influence on him.
Yeah.
He's trying to
be in the out Georgia. Hey. Dog running wild, eating kebabs and that. Oh, it'd be neat good for him.
Oh, but no, it was really nice. And he speaks really well, and he does, and he says the right things. And I think he seems very level-headed. And I think obviously having his dad there and he's got a dog for the reason, like to keep him out of trouble and to keep him company and to keep him out of the city and things. And I think that's just nice. And I do feel a bit sorry for him as well, though. It came across nice, but also a bit pity, which he probably didn't want. He didn't want pity, but also I did feel that.
Scott, I suppose it does, you know, when we see these types of interviews with players, it does take them off the Panini sticker album and actually they become a real person. And, you know, a lot of people are slating, well, probably a lot of us including myself, Joe Willock at the start of the season. And I think it always just gives you, you know, that bit of context, doesn't it, Scott, of who the player is rather than what he is, like who he is, you know. And it just makes you think, how should we react to these players when they are going through bad form?
It does. It makes you realize that they are human. You know, we see them on the telly and we see them on, you know, on Twitter and online and whatever, and in the Chronicle or whatever it is, and you don't really see the human side of them. You just see the footballer and the superstar or whatever it is, and it just. I think if we saw more of that, there'd be a lot less of the hate online. Obviously, I think, you know, during the game and directly after the game, you're going to get those knee-jerk reactions, but you get a lot of people who just do ongoing for no reason, just hate. And it's like, if you actually spoke to the bloke, you wouldn't say it to his face for a start, but also you'd probably not want to because you'd probably get to know him and you'd probably really like him. And I don't think there's any players currently in that side where you hear them speaking and you see them doing interviews where you think, God, he's a bit of an arsehole, him, isn't he? Like, they all seem like really nice blokes.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see because we have had some in the past and we've had some real bad ones in the past. So it's good that there's a nice little group of players. And, you know, now I'm thinking maybe John Joe Shelby's the one who could come across a bit like that. But I think he's grown up a bit from when kind of he used to be.
Even his interviews are coming across really well. And I think the whole media side of Newcastle now, they're playing it very clever and they are doing what you've just said and they are coming across and they're doing a lot of interviews, face-to-face interviews, media written down interviews in the press, and they are all coming across very, very well. And I think that's very clever of them to do that because, I mean, a few months ago, everyone was slating Joe Linton. Now he's done a few interviews and yes, it helps. He's doing really well, but everyone's like, wow, he's dead nice, isn't he? He's really funny. And I think they're playing it very, very clever.
And he loves a bit of Euro Disney.
I was going to say the pictures of Joe Linton at Disneyland last Sunday was the content I needed for a Sunday morning. That was absolutely outstanding. Yeah. But also, and I know we're going to touch on this later, but the putting a mic on Longstaff during the training, and just hearing him and like watching him going around, like it's awesome. Like it just we felt so separated from the club for so long, and then you know. Debbie's come in and she talked the talk when she came in, and everyone's like, "Oh, she's saying the right things. Let's see if she delivers." And they have, like, they've absolutely delivered on every angle of it, and it's been great. And especially for me, who I don't live in Newcastle anymore, I'm not able to get to the games every week. Although I am thinking about it next season, but that's another story. see what the bank account says. Yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, like for fans who are further adrift, and I know there's a few in the WhatsApp group as well, it just brings you a little bit closer to the club.
Yeah.
Where literally for the past few years, it's been me watching the game on a weekend, and that's pretty much all I'm getting from the club.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the content, a few of the comments about this mic'd up. Ian, I'm sure you spent some time. I've watched it probably a couple of times. Although there wasn't like anything really like wow, that was amazing. Yeah.
It's
how enjoyable was that mic'd up with Sean Longstaff?
It's great.
Was it very good, very nice? That's the question.
It was. I mean, I don't know whether they've done it deliberately because obviously he's a Newcastle lad, so there might be that aspect. But anything sort of behind the scenes, like because obviously when you see the training videos, you sort of hear Eddie Howe and what he is, and it's just like sort of clips of like training drills where it's just like instructions on where to pass it and stuff. But they hear like what sort of crack is and the atmosphere is just really it's so interesting to see as well, like the group dynamic. It's like stuff like if you've ever watched like listen to the Peter Crouch podcast, like getting an insight to like footballers' lives and like stuff like that. I find it fascinating. But I really enjoyed that video, to be honest. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Eddie Howe mic'd up when he was at Bournemouth?
No. Yeah, I think every Newcastle fan watched that when
Eddie Howe. I watched it again after the Shane Ferguson one. The Shane Ferguson one, the Sean Longstaff one. I'm probably jumping ahead of myself there.
Shane Ferguson.
And I watched Eddie Howe one again, and it just like you said, it's not just him calling out stuff. Like he's talking to them, he's pally with them. It's really good to see, and I kind of hope they do it again.
Yeah,
to Eddie Howe. Down the line, but we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, Laura, talking about the mic'd up content and all that, the way that the players have come across, and a player who's come in for a lot of criticism, I would say, since probably for the last couple of years, and at one point was a real focal point of our identity and kind of somebody we clung on to because he gave a fuck, to paraphrase him after that sending off against Southampton. But The Athletic this week, a really good interview with I believe George Culkin with Jamal Lascelles, and I know you had a good read of that, and I know you have a bit of a love-hate relationship possibly with Lascelles, or Lascelles as you affectionately call him, but how did he come across there, and what did you make of that, and like what did you make of his attitude, to playing for Newcastle and what it means to them all?
Yeah, I think just to repeat my point before, it made him, and like you say, I have criticised him, but again, they're being very clever because after I read it, I was like, I feel sorry for him. I like him. No, he came across really well, and when I was reading it, I did pick up on a few like key points that I thought, wow, like it was the what he said, the captaincy beforehand. He felt like it was such a tough job because it was him. And there was a lot of mourning and groaning, and it was just him on his own trying to get this group together, and there wasn't any togetherness. Whereas now there's a group of captains. Yes, he might have the armband, but there is a group of captains, and he said it makes his life easier, which I thought was interesting. Because then he went on to say that how he's picked players for a purpose, not just a big name picked out of a hat. He's picked them for a genuine purpose. And then did you pick up on the bit where? Obviously, we know that what Howe does in training with the leaderboard and that, but how Gayle was on top, like I found that.
That is, you're absolutely right.
How like Gayle is not playing and clearly not in Howe's plans for the immediate foreseeable future, but he's obviously proper trying and training to get top of this leaderboard or whatever it is. It just shows that like the character that Howe is building, and even Lascelles said that Howe's man management skills are just brilliant, and that I know I love Rafa, and I do, but I really feel like this was a dig at Rafa when he said that the management came in and the first thing they did was talk about their personal lives and their girlfriends and their wives and the kids, and he said previous haven't asked us how many days, never mind that. And I know from listening to previous podcasts that was Rafa blatantly. So no, I thought he came across really well, and he understands, a bit like Shelby's interview the other week. He understands the situation and he knows he's coming to the end. However, he's just very privileged and happy to be here and to be a part of this beginning of the future, if you like. And I think he came across really well, and the attitude came across, and the hunger to get back into the team. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thinking about, the way the players came across and the way they've spoken, and that desire and that bond between the players has really, really come across over the last few weeks. And Laura, do you think that Eddie Howe was talking about, I think maybe Eddie Howe, or it might have been somebody else close to the club, was talking about an evolution rather than a revolution of, all these players leaving. And do you think, a lot of people are kind of written off Lascelles as soon as we've got the money, that Lascelles will be gone. Do you think we'll still be looking at Lascelles as captain for the first game of next season?
It's a tough one, and I think it totally depends how the summer goes. And personally, as much as I do quite like him and he's come across well, I think it is time to just say, look, you've done a good job, you've been a loyal servant. Yes, maybe stay behind the scenes, do a job, keep that team together in the dressing room, good character, experience. But I do personally think the sentimental you need to be ruthless, and it's a case of, if we're looking to rebuild, you do need to improve a little bit. It's a bit like a bit like Tetris, remove one and then just replace it with a better fit. And I do think it is time for him to be removed and a better fit come in, because if you are looking to improve each time, we're not saying next year Champions League or anything like that, but you do. I was listening to the lads on Monday and they were saying you do want to improve each year. So no matter where we finish, we do want to better that next year, and how we'll want to better that next year. And I don't think you can do that with Lascelles. I think you do, and I think you don't even need a new captain, because I think there's one just sitting there waiting in Trippier. So.
For me, I think we do need to be careful about how we dismantle this squad because of the team spirit. I wouldn't necessarily get rid of Lascelles. I would, look at trimming, Clark and maybe Richie. But
I just want to clarify, I didn't mean get rid of him out the club. I think he should stay at the club, but I do think the captain will be removed, in the whole being a regular feature in the back at the
I think the captaincy, Laura, picking up on that with fishing rods, is about Trippier is blatantly ideal to replace. But like you say, I think we need, and we've lacked for a long time, we need a team full of captains, don't we? That's the goal.
And that's what he said. And he said there was a group of them, and I totally believe him. And I think there is a lot of leaders and that experience in that squad. And I think it will only get better with Howe's appointments that he'll make.
Sort of looking ahead towards next season, without getting too far ahead of ourselves. I know we're not mathematically safe yet. Just really briefly, Ian, on the decision by the Premier League to bring in the 5 subs rule. Eddie Howe was asked about it today, and he sounded like he was in favour of it. I listened to Dean, forgotten his second name, from Norwich, Dean Smith. As if I couldn't remember the name Smith. I mean, what is going on? Talk about overlapping lips, you know what I mean? Ian, what's your view on this 5 substitutions, and can you believe that it was passed in that Premier League meeting?
Yeah, because they initially said no, and then they've done a U-turn. And personally, I know we're not trying to get ahead of ourselves, because we're not, like you say, mathematically safe anyway. And then next season, it's not like we're going to go out and buy 15 players. But for me, it's just geared up for the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but I've seen a tweet where Man City against Palace, the 0-0, and they had something like nearly 300 million sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And then if you look at, Man City, yes, for all that they're going for the title. And for the next couple of seasons, it's probably just going to be a 2-3 horse race anyway. But for someone that's like, let's say, not needing the points dramatically, to then be able to do that, whereas like you will have a team that don't at the bottom, like Burnley or someone like that, Norwich, who don't have that quality. That's the difference between when they play those sort of smaller teams, with no disrespect to them, and take like 3 points off them. That is what could sort of have a smaller team out of the league. So I do think it's massively geared up in favour for the big six. So I couldn't get away with it. Like, and again, I'll probably change my tune in a few seasons' time when we're up there and we're bringing on.
Yeah.
I was going to say Pelé. We're definitely not bringing on Pelé. When we're obviously,
Hey,
yeah,
it's a bit of a stretch, maybe, in bringing Pelé on.
but yeah, I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
it should be. I think for all its purposes, I think it was obviously started with the COVID.
Yep.
Sure, it was that. And yes, it served its purposes, but I personally think it should just be 3 subs.
Yeah, yeah. Scott, what do you make of the 5 substitution rule?
I'm in two minds about it. I think it's obviously like Ian said, it's really to benefit the big six, but it's really to benefit any team that are in Europe. I think because they're going to have teams playing midweek and then they're going to be playing at the weekend again, so they're going to need to make those subs. Which, is that fair? Probably not, but it is what it is. I do also think.
But then, is that not why they have those big squads? You know, they can. You know, they can.
Exactly,
but they can like rotate the squad
true.
anyway, can't they? You know.
True, but if you're Man City playing in the semi-final of the Champions League, you're going to play the same team that you're going to be playing on the weekend to win the Premier League. Like it's you're going to want those same players. Yes, you can have squad depth, but you can't have a squad of, say, B team of superstars who are going to win you the Champions League or win you the league. You've still got to have your best players on the pitch. I do think what I was going to say that the World Cup maybe has something to do with it, because there is going to be quite a big break in the winter, which means before that and after that there's going to be a huge congestion of games. So maybe they brought it in with that at the back of their mind, thinking this is a 1 season only thing and we'll go back to 3 substitutions the season after, because we've got this World Cup bang in the middle of our season. So I think maybe that's another thing that they're thinking about as well, but I don't know. Obviously, only the lads at the FA know, and the lads at the Premier League.
Well, they sound like they make it up as they go along a lot of the time, but there we go.
Kind of like
Laura,
us on a Friday night, just making it up as we go along.
There is some structure.
I'm shocked and offended. No, it's never totally made up. There's always a plan. It's just it gets tech about 2 minutes before about to start. So moving on from, well, I suppose staying on the theme of the squad but perhaps looking backwards rather than forwards. Again, in the Athletic, a really interesting article that got a lot of attention was somebody had made some sort of crazy matrix. Some guy with a computer had made a crazy matrix to look at transfer fees for, players like Shearer, Ferdinand, and it was really interesting to see some of the adjustments that were made. If we just quickly, I think I've uploaded it. The little table that we did of Newcastle transfers. There we go. Just move your heads to the side there. So, I mean, God knows how they work this out with inflation, etc. But Alan Shearer at the top there in the modern game. Laura, value for money there, 222 million. Realistic?
In this day and age, probably, yeah. So I don't know if this is going to be a silly question, but so who would cost 222 million now?
Shearer.
No, I know
so
that, man. I mean, like...
Oh, like a player.
I can't read,
I think Neymar's the closest, isn't he?
Wait, when you said it's going to be a stupid question, like, I was thinking, you know what it is? That is a stupid question because it's right there in front of you.
I can beat that. I meant in today's game.
It really wasn't a stupid question. It was a stupid response.
It really was, yeah. So actually, that was that.
Neymar.
I think it was
probably,
Neymar.
Right. Okay,
I mean, I know Haaland's got a release clause, but Erling Haaland.
Wait, that Pedri at Barcelona.
Lewandowski, maybe it's possibly, like somebody like that. So would you say that? I would say that that's pretty on par. I would say that's a fair price.
Was it 80? Is it 6? Because I'm right up close to be kind. 62 million for Michael Owen.
Yes.
What a waste of 62 million that would have been.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about him, but Darren Peacock is 54 million. Like, decent for him. Like, is that too much?
He's
Duncan Ferguson, 75 million.
Yeah. Well, if you think,
I think it's not on that table as well, but Marcelino was 45 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best, although it was fairly recent, the best sort of pound for pound that was quoted for a lot of them was Johan Cabaye. So I think, was signing for 3.5 million, which I mean was a deal. Like I think sold him for 32, possibly. I could be wrong. Darryl will correct us on that one, but he was priced at the modern price of 10 million, which is ridiculous for a player his quality. His quality. So, I actually thought that Philippe Albert was a free transfer. That's what I was convinced that Albert was a free transfer, but apparently not. So, but yes, I think it was really interesting. So, we've talked about the Lascelles article and we've talked about this one. So go and check those out because they are really, really interesting. It's a really, really good read in the Athletic this week. So go and check those out. I'm sure we'll be, it'd be nice to get close to some of those values to some of the players that were signed in the summer transfer window. Because there's always a way around it.
Oh, well,
has he gone?
I don't know.
Financial fair play, carry on. There's always a way around it.
It's just like he's having a conversation with himself there.
We lost you for a second.
You're back.
Oh, did you? Oh, right. It's probably the best. Probably the best part of the show, to be perfectly honest with you. So, right, I think we've kind of covered. Actually, just really, really, really quickly. I don't know if any of you have seen. Speaking about coming back to seeing the more human side of players. Very briefly, a clip that I saw on, I think it was on Twitter, on Facebook, of Luke Ayling, who plays for Leeds. He was getting interviewed as part of there must be a match of the day Friday night show for whatever it is. It's almost like a mini Football Focus, or it might be part of Football Focus, a preview. But he was interviewed because I didn't realize, but he has a stammer, and I remember he got interviewed after a game, and it was really noticeable that he overused the words that and like. Now, I know I use the word obviously all the time, and there's other words, and I don't have a stammer, but it was really interesting to see, again, the human side of this player discussing. He was making himself very vulnerable. It was really, honestly, it's such a good, if you try and find it, try and watch it. It's really interesting and I've worked with kids, I'm sure you have, Laura, who have difficulties with their speech, and it was really interesting to listen to a current Premier League football player talking about the stammer, and it was really, really interesting. So I really urge you to go and check it out, and anybody who's watching, have a look at it. I'm sure it's Match of the Day ×2 or something like that. So try and find it. It's a really interesting watch about seeing kind of the more human side of some of the players that we watch and we see in the Premier League. Anyway, moving on from that, just before we get into the Hall of Fame, there's just been the draw for the World Cup. I know I didn't put this on the group, but I'm sure you're all on top of it. I'll very quickly just show you. These are the groups. That way. Hello. So Qatar, obviously the hosts, and just before we go into England, there's always a group of death, right? And I'm struggling to see the group of death. Which would you say?
I saw something online about that, and they worked out the average rating of the group based on current world rankings, and we have the worst group. We are the average 17, and all the others are 18.5 and 20 up. Our group is 17 is the worst, and that's going off from Wales, Scotland, and Ukraine. Whoever's top ranking there, they took that ranking. So I saw a little thing on Twitter just before we come online, and it said that we have the worst group, which I don't see that, but if you go off world rankings, which I mean, what are they
World
really mean, to
rankings,
be
I
fair?
know.
Yeah.
I suppose that.
I reckon Group G and H probably. I mean, Brazil will run away with that group, but then for second place, I think that's wide open.
That's
and
that's our
then
group. I think Group E looks a bit tricky because Japan are on the bad side. They've got a couple of good players, a couple of Celtics, so that's it. That's an interesting group. Laura, is any groups that stand out for you?
No. Sorry. I'm not even going to pretend like I don't.
Nope.
Just B. The only one I'll be interested in is B.
By the way, what a totally underwhelming opening game. Qatar, Ecuador.
Yeah.
Ecuador.
My friend DJ Sash.
Did you watch the draw?
Yeah.
So I don't know how Jermaine Jennings wangled that job, but Jermaine Jennings was doing it worldwide. However, we drew Saudi Arabia in our group, but because Iran were already in the group, they had to move them to C, and then they drew again for us. And it was like that would have been perfect for like Newcastle fans. England v Saudi Arabia would have been a nice game for everyone.
Split loyalties. Do you know what I mean? All those people with the Saudi flag on that Twitter.
Where you green and white shirts. But yeah, that was happening all the time. They were drawing teams out, and then they were going, "Oh well, there's a conflict here because they're in the same." I can't remember the name. They were saying that like at the confederation, so they have to move them to the next group along, and it was just because
there was one that jumped about 3 groups. I think it was the 2 teams in. I think it had 2 teams in Europe, so I think it might have been Serbia. I want to say. They ended up in group. I think it could have got drawn in one of the groups, but there was Germany, Spain, and then whoever's just been on the group after that. I think it was Croatia, Belgium. So Serbia had to go into Brazil's group. I think it's the group that we're in. I think it's cakewalk. Watch us get clipped, and when we get knocked out in the group stages.
Just before we move on from the World Cup, I suppose until we kind of go into our Hall of Fame, shout to John Herdman, the Canada coach from Concert. I was reading up a little bit about him. He went from, I think he was coaching in the setup, possibly at Newcastle, where he was doing something, and then he's gone across to New Zealand, coached the New Zealand women's team, then gone across to Canada and done the Canada women's team, and then he's gone to and it's the first time they qualify for the World Cup in 20-something years. I think I think it might be longer. So I think everybody will be. I'll be keeping an eye on Canada. Definitely, we'll have a little bit of an interest in another group. I think they'll be my second team for the World Cup. I think
it's just nice seeing like teams that are very rarely in it. So I remember, I think,
for sure.
I want to say, was it Angola? Were they in it a couple of years ago? And you just look at like teams like that. Just touching on it before, because obviously I know you were mentioned there the England Saudi Arabia thing. Did you see Gareth Southgate's interview about because obviously there's the human rights record in Qatar and people are, but he was saying like in terms of like he mentioned us, he was like, you've got people campaigning about the owners that own Newcastle from Saudi Arabia, but in the same breath, you're then trying to get cheaper oil from Saudi Arabia. So like sort of it was quite refreshing to see, to be honest. And you know, when I know this isn't an England podcast, but when Southgate took over, it was like so underwhelming. But I think what he's done with the England squad is very similar to what Eddie Howe's done with our squad. So I quite like Southgate.
Yeah, no, I think he does get a lot of flack and he does divide opinion, but you know, I'm fairly, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the England team, and I think a lot of people do. But you know, I am on board with England. I think it looks like they're on a bit of a journey. If anybody fancies joining Davey Eddy, he's in Tenerife for all the England World Cup games, so that should be kind of. Honestly,
in December, that'll be nice.
More holidays in Judith Chalmers, as we would say. So I think, you know, we're all looking forward to that. I am looking forward to having that World Cup in. Just really briefly, it was interesting to see some of the press who were talking about going to Qatar. A couple of notable ones on Twitter who've been very vocal about Newcastle and kind of linking to what you said about what Gareth Southgate said, and you know, they're quite happy to go over there. Oh yeah, I'm reporting on what's going on in Qatar when really they're on the gravy chain.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. So it is quite interesting to see that, you know, the truth will out in the end, because all these guys they're all interested in is clicks and what they can get out of the game. And there you go. That's what we'll end on, I suppose, on that one.
Fools, Roger.
So,
they're fools. There's your segue.
Absolute dickheads. Anyway, so yes, speaking of fools, so because it was April Fool's Day today, Laura, did you play any pranks on the kids today?
Nah.
Oh, right.
Sorry. No, I was thinking about it, but then I didn't really know. I'm not very good at them, and I didn't really know what to do, and I thought it might backfire. And...
Shall I tell you a good one?
Mm-hmm.
That definitely will backfire.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a young whippersnapper, I was teaching in a school in Bermondsey, and it was April Fool's, and I was like, right. I had a group of kids, probably very similar to the group of kids that you've got, the year 3 or 4, I think they were, very disengaged with writing, very difficult to get a good piece of writing out of them. So this is, 2005, 2006, years ago. And I mocked up a web page, and it was
straight away we're different teachers, because I just
it was about
asked to do that.
It was about school closures. So I made up. I basically told the kids that the school was closing. And
what, like forever?
Yeah. Yeah. I said the school's at risk of being closed. I'd written this full on councillor such and such from Southwark Council says, due to government funding, we're going to have to select schools that are blah, 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 da, 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 and all this. And the kids were like, because the school was the hub of this community. So all these kids were absolutely shocked. 3 kids were crying in my lesson.
Oh, sorry, I don't think mine would give a shit.
I was Laura, I sold it really well. I really went for it. I got the head teacher involved. The head teacher was up for anything, and he was like, yeah, let's do that. So he came in, he was like, have you told the children about? And I was like, yeah, we're just chatting about it now, you know. And he was like, what can we do about it, boys and girls? And the kids were like, oh, we should write a letter. We should write a letter. I was like, yes, let's write a really persuasive letter. Oh my God, this is a great... Anyway, so all these kids wrote probably the best piece of work they've ever written. And at the end of the lesson, they finished the work, and I told them, I was like, oh, it wasn't true. I was just lying. And they were like, this last car rush, it was called. I mean, all these kids now are probably 18 and scarred for life, but they're 18, probably 18, 19 now, probably a little bit older. And they were like, she was like, you made Jack cry. I was like, yeah. So I went home not feeling great that evening, but I was there. So
you're very imaginative. We wrote a diary as a crayon from the day the crayons quit book.
What a story, boys.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? And but they took it a bit too far, because I was like, it was the yellow crayon, and the yellow crayon, for anyone that doesn't know, the yellow crayon hates the orange crayon because they both want to be the sun. Oh, there was a lot of violence in the writing. And
I like the peach crayon.
No, I stayed well clear of the peach crayon.
For those of you who haven't read the Day the Crayons Quit, the peach crayon is naked.
Naked, yeah.
Because everybody they all peel the paper off the peach one, don't you? Yeah. To see the peach.
Well, anyway. I had I hope yellow crayon jumps out of a parachute, jumps out of a plane without a parachute and dies. I was like, I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is strong. Anyway, teacher crack, we'll get that out of the way. Sorry, everybody. We've probably lost about 25,000 subscribers there. So, let's get into the Hall of Fame then. So, Tom, he did say he had a really substantial list of... so, Kinnear's press conference, Hullett leaving, Sheeran Ferguson on the bench with a derby, Villa game, Dyer Boya and Taylor hit by a sniper, Shepherd and Hall calling local women dogs. So, an honourable mentions there, definitely. So, I didn't prompt you on honourable mention, so I'm going to go through some of the ones that I kind of came up with and thought of. Classic moment in the history of Newcastle United, of course. Vinnie Jones and Paul Gascoigne having a little bit of a close encounter there. If you watch, there's a very short clip on YouTube of Gaza talking about this incident, and it's really, really, really fun. Really good to hear Gaza's take on the whole situation about. And at the end of the game, apparently, when he got the changing rooms, Gaza had some roses. Somebody had sent him some roses, so he went and he sent it across to the Wimbledon change room. Said, "Oh, somebody give these to Vinny." And then Vinny sent him back a bog brush, which I think was absolutely brilliant. And they've been friends ever since. So that was a really good one. Honourable mention for the poor gentleman who got the corner flag in the bollocks, courtesy of Matt Ritchie after Isaac Hayden's last-minute winner against Chelsea, which I think was one of the last games before the lockdown, I believe. I think, let's see which other ones I went with. I think we all know that picture, don't we? Is that me, Scott?
That's
What's
literally his.
What's the
How's
quote,
the bacon,
Scott?
did you say?
How's the bacon, did you say?
Yeah, how's the bacon?
Well, saying just before we came on, he did 2 or 3 of them where it was like pre-press conference. There's one where it must have been like quite windy outside, and his patter's just so shit. Like, that wind's getting up out there. Shut up, Steve.
It's because he's
and
a
then
nice
dried biscuits.
Guy. He worries about the weather. Scott, you did suggest this one as well, the famous or the infamous Gallagher pigeon, which I believe is gone now, being replaced by a bottle of Coke, I think, for the last time I saw. Oh, how could I forget the penny copper against Oxford? Oh, mate, that is an absolute shout. Respect to Fishing Rods for that one. That was brilliant. A couple of others just before we get into ours. I know the world is being rocked by an incident that happened this week at the Oscars. We have our very own version of Will Smith versus Chris Rock. Of course, we have the Derby Day disaster where I can't remember his name, but he punched a horse basically. So that was a bit of a foolish incident. I think that man lost more than his dignity that day, possibly lost his job because his medication was affecting his ability to think. I think that was it, something like that. And one more I think I'll go with. Did I get a picture for it? No. Well, there's countless under Mike Ashley, but the story of Derek Lambias running across the pitch naked because he lost a bet based on Shola Amiobi, apparently. So that was one of many that happened under thingy. And did you know, can you remember when Enrique went in goal against Newcastle for Liverpool?
Yes.
That was on April Fool's Day.
Oh, yes, I've seen that today, actually.
Yeah, there you go. So, so many to mention. I'm sorry, I've definitely missed out some, but I thought I'd get a Gaza mention in there because I usually get slated for not mentioning Gaza. So, we'll go with that one. So, let's get in our choices for this week.
Roger, sure. Just before we do that, who won last week's?
Last week, yes. Excellent. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for reminding me. So it was a dead tie between Shola Amiobi and Bobby Moncur. So there you go. I did get slated for putting Gaza in, though. I kind of do regret that now, but
I think as a punishment for not doing that, whoever voted for Shola Amiobi, they should take the plaudits, I think, this week. Whoever's nomination Shola Amiobi was.
Fuck you.
No, it would be the only one I would have done as well.
A couple. Bellamy took a chair at Carver at the airport. So that's a good one. Right. Okay, so let's get into our choices for those incidents that were incredibly foolish. I'm gonna go with Ian. Seeing you were on the mic just before there, I'm gonna give you the floor for your choice for the most foolish incident from yours.
Yeah, so my foolish incident is the Alan Pardew headbutt on, I believe it was Hull's David Myler.
Bang!
So I actually went to that game, and to be honest, it's the only away game I've actually I think it's seen with score, but definitely won. I'm never win when I go to an away game, but like there was in where we were behind the goal to sort of the left of the dugout. And you didn't really see what had happened. And then on the bus on the way back, everyone's like, "Oh, apparently there's been like a big brawl." So when you watch it, and then when you watch it on Match of the Day, and he like full on sticks the nut on him, but his excuse at the time was, "Oh, I just tried to push him away with me head." It's like, I read Alan, but I'm sure I was saying before we came on that I'm sure that season he had verbally assaulted Pellegrini.
And I think did he
the
push
Man City
push
manager.
a ref as well? Did he push Mark into?
Yeah, it was. I think it was the linesman. He pushed the linesman.
Yeah,
So
he was, yeah.
But and I was saying, I think it was the same season right at the start of the season. We're talking about there's like a GIF of Alan Pardew, where we're playing Villa, and I think it's Remy Cabella, and he's trying to get a message across to him, and he's just going, like, what kind of tactics is that? But then obviously, when you look at
is that when he's holding on to De Jong?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Is that Steve McLaren? Was it Steve McLaren?
No. It's definitely Pardew, because I think he was trying to say that he needs to be more relaxed or something. So he starts doing.
You know, the GIF or this freeze where every Christmas it's on all sort of social media saying this is what teachers are like, and the nativity in the letter.
Yeah. yes. Oh,
so
good King Wenceslas last lockdown. Yeah.
So when you just look at that season, I mean, it's a season full of foolish moments for Mr. Pardew. But it was his excuse was just, like, we had a couple of words and I tried to push him away with my head. So you don't do that, Alan. Just you try to stick the nut on him.
It reminds me of like because my foolish moment is from a podcast, and on that same podcast, Andy Woodman tells the story of how a few weeks before that, Andy Woodman had a fight with a goalkeeping coach, and I can't remember the game or anything, and Pardew absolutely bollocked him, and I was like, you cannot do that, you sit down there, you don't move, you do this, you do that, how stupid. He went, and then the next game, there he is headbutting Mela, and I just sat there going, well, you told us not to move.
Brilliant. So I think that was a good shout. I think everybody was absolutely shocked, but what I liked was when just straight after the incident, it's like when somebody who's not hard like steams into a fight, and then they're like, whoa, no, like they have a momentary braveness, and then all of a sudden, like he's immediately trying to play it down. He's like, I was just a little, So Pardew was at his demonstrative best, I would say, during that incident.
Loose cannon that season.
Oh, he's an absolute loose cannon. So great shout for a foolish moment. I think I'm going to come to Scott. I'm going to come to you next. We haven't heard from you for a while. So, Scott, You've got a very, very divisive man in the I suppose in the modern history of Newcastle United. Who have you gone with?
I do, yeah. So I've gone with none other than Joe Kinnear, specifically when he was director of football, or when he was brought in. So the whole appointment was a bit of a shambles, as he looks like there. He doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he calls into TalkSport, or he's on TalkSport the night before anything's even announced, saying, the contract's been signed, and I've been in discussions for 3 weeks. But then he goes on to say, well, I only heard about it 10 days ago. And it's like, if you're dealing with transfer finances and you can't figure out 10 days and 3 weeks are not the same, you've got no chance. He went on to berate the fans. He then went on to name some of the players, and I think we know, Johan Kebabs and Ben Affrey, Sisi, Shola Amamobi. It's actually quite hard to say them incorrectly. Can I just point that out? Galteriez. And then he said Tails, and I always thought he meant Ryan Taylor, but I listened to it back the day because I knew we were talking about it. And he says Tails, and then he says someone else, and then he goes, and we've got Ryan Taylor as well. So I don't know who he's referring to as Tails. I was thinking maybe it's Stephen Taylor, but I don't know if that was a bit before his time, so I'm not sure.
No.
And then he goes on to big himself up saying, I talk weekly with Alex Ferguson, and I can pick up the phone at any any hour of the day and speak to Arsene Wenger. It's like, I don't think Arsene Wenger is going to pick up the phone to you at any day of the week. Maybe to get his answer phone. And then to top it all off, I think the most famous thing about the Joe Kinnear reign in director of football was he took a little trip to Birmingham, and he viewed a Capital One Cup game against Swansea. and there was a young lad called Shane Ferguson playing for Birmingham, and he turned around to the higher ups at Birmingham and went, "Good kid, him. Do you want to sell him?" And not realizing that he was actually on loan from Newcastle to Birmingham.
Yeah.
So
Disastrous.
I think the whole thing was, if April was a year, that would be his year. I think that would be that's the part that was a part of it.
And of course, who could forget his opening salvo when he first had the press conference about which one of you is Simon Bird, and told him to F off immediately. Yep. So, you're a CUNT. So, yeah. Oh, and of course, don't forget Charles Insomnia as well. I'm not sure if you mentioned that one. Yeah, Charles Insomnia. You met him apparently Daryl met him on a train and couldn't even pronounce Paul Dummett's name.
Never. Daryl met someone on a train. Bloody hell.
Does he work on the trains, like?
I think he might. I think he's met a few people on the train. Has he met Amanda on the train?
He has. Just before we get into more, I've completely forgot about this one. About he went behind my back right in front of my face. So that was it. That was a good one from Craig Bellamy. That was definitely an honourable mention for that one. So yes, Scott, I think that is a great shout. Generally, an absolute disaster. Plenty foolish incidents, misspoken, swearing, forgetting probably where the training ground was. So yes, I think Joe Kinnear is a great shout for one of our April Fool candidates for the Hall of Fame. So thank you very much. Laura, if you don't mind, I'm going to leave you to last. And I'm going to go. Don't roll your eyes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even hear it was just.
Who do you think you are, Steve? Who's like? Oh,
never done that for a while.
Laura, do you not kind of miss those days a little bit?
I do miss having something to whinge about and laugh about and rant about, to be honest.
Yeah, man. Yeah. This, in the coming season, we're going to be whinging about, we're paying too much money for this, we're overlaying too much money.
Only 4-0 this win.
Yeah.
You know what I'll be whinging about? Having to stay extra for all these 10 bloody subs. Can it be arsed for that? Like, on a night game, it's going to be like yawn time.
And you want to be in the monkey bar, don't you, really?
Yes.
That's what you want to be. Exactly. Right. So, I'm going to go next. So, my foolish incident is, it's not one individual incident. It's actually a game. Newcastle United versus Aston Villa in 2005. Manager was Graham Souness. It was a game that was filled with incidents. It was a home game, and it's very famous for a fight initially between Messrs. Dyer and Boyer. And I remember being at the game. I was sitting in the East Stand at the time, and I went for a pie, a pint, or a piss, one of the three. And as I was coming back, there was a let's use a proper football term, a melee in the middle of the pitch. And I couldn't quite work out what was going on. And I think a lot of people were like, and Gareth Barry was there and a couple of Newcastle players. I remember initially everyone was like, go on, because they thought it was a Newcastle player getting stuck into a Villa player. And then it suddenly emerged 10 seconds later. Oh, it's two Newcastle players? Absolutely, kicking shades at each other. So that was the first incident in that game. Both players sent off. Understandably so, despite Alan Shearer trying to convince the ref that they shouldn't have been sent off. So, respect to Shearer for that. And then I think at the point where we were 2-0 down, Villa player goes through, Givens beaten. Your last man on the line is none other than our very own Stephen Taylor, and there's a strike on the ball and it hits him in the arm. And I mean that is quite a maneuver. I mean, a dying swan.
It's almost like he's being possessed, isn't it?
The The power of Christ compels you, Mr. Taylor. So the ball hits him clearly in the arm for 52,000 people to see. And inevitably, yes, understandably, and embarrassingly for Stephen Taylor, he's then sent off. So it was just an absolutely calamitous game, a calamitous day. And the upshot of the sending off was that those two players both missed the semi-final in Cardiff against Manchester United. So the ramifications were later. And then the foolishness continued when the players had to do a publicity stunt for...
Was it the press conference?
Yeah, where they had to then shake hands publicly outside the training ground. And the whole thing was just an absolute embarrassment. And the complete irony of the whole situation was that Graham Souness was brought in to bring the dressing room under control, which apparently had got out of control under Sir Bobby Robson. God rest his soul. So, yeah, it was just an absolute calamity from beginning to end. 3-0 defeat, 3 players sent off, a mocked-up handshake after the game. And there was a lot of speculation about why the players had had the fight, and was there a racist element to it because Lee Bowyer had a little bit of history at Leeds with an incident with Safras Najib and Bowyer and it all, and it turns out it was just because he wouldn't pass to him. So they kicked the shit out of each other basically in front of 52,000 people. So that was my foolish incident or foolish game. I'm going to go. Maybe I've used a little bit of artistic license with that one. So that was my foolish incident. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely.
Did you not see? I can't remember where I see. I think it was some documentary about the city of Newcastle with Alan Cummins of all people, and he went to St James's and Cath the tea lady.
Yes.
So there was a press conference that Bowyer and Dyer, and then I think it was Souness had to have, and it was like live on Sky Sports News at the time, but she didn't know, so she was just wandering out with like a tray of tea to put in front of everyone whilst they were getting interviewed about this incident, which made the whole thing even more foolish. Bless her cotton socks.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, somebody probably already has written a book about the amount of ridiculous incidents we've had in embarrassing.
It's mad that literally all of these are just from one club. It's not like a Premier League or it's just one club in the space of about 20 years.
Well, when we first, before we go on to Laura's contribution, before we as we were thinking about this, off the top of my head, I went, Joe Kinnear scouting his own player, Stephen Taylor getting shot, Pardew headbutt, Joe Kinnear swearing, Kevin Keegan's I love it press conference after the Leeds game, the horse punching, Dyer versus Bowyer, Steve Bress, how's the bacon, Gazza's getting his bollocks grabbed, the entertainers adverts. I know, Scott, I mentioned this to you about the Sugar Puffs adverts. That was brilliant, but that was really, really, would it be foolish or funny? Shepherd and Hall, the fake shake, Richie kicking the corner flag, which we've shown. The one I nearly went for. Can you remember when we beat Sunderland 5-1, right? Mm-hmm. And before the game, the mascot, as he came out, he was like, if you try and Google it, just
I remember, the game,
he was like 7-8-year-old, but he looked like probably Laura. He went to your school, like he was like proper like. At his chest, like he was carrying his carpets and that. It was absolutely brilliant. Mike Ashley down in a pint at Arsenal in the away end. The Sports Direct Arena, which I think Tom might have mentioned. Gallagher Pigeon, Ketsbayer kicking off.
Mike Ashley doing a striptease.
Mike Ashley striptease. Oh, yes. Mike Ashley striptease.
Well, he's whipping himself with a belt, isn't he?
Yeah. The Geordie Dancer versus the Mac and Mover on Soccer AM.
That was the biggest travesty. I mean, actually, it's not because the Geordie Dancer is a terrible dancer, quite frankly.
Oh, the Mac and Mover was giving it the old thing,
he was, but just for sheer... It was like the Soccer AM dance-off. It was like the stupidest dance should have won. I think he was robbed, quite frankly.
Yep.
I used to always see him in Idols after a match.
Late shout from Davey on his Sun Lounger in Tenerife. Dyer crashing into the swing bridge. That swing bridge has had more action than most people in Newcastle.
You know what it is, though? I've never seen it in operation.
Oh, you're too young, son. You're too young. I've seen it move. Yeah, Jody Dancer, Robert kicking the ball off Oliver Bernard's face. Labai streaking, and then Jose Enrique going in goal. I'm sure there are many, many more. And what I really hope, right, that is our Newcastle. And I do hope that when all this money comes in,
it still continues.
It still continues, because we are a absolute barn pot crazy club. And Man City are very similar, and they had the fireworks incidents with Mario Balotelli. So I'm praying that we still have these ridiculous incidents that happen, because I think that's what makes the fabric. It's sewn into the fabric of the club. I really do. So, just to finish us off, then, Laura, you've got one that a lot of people will probably it'll resonate with a lot of people. So I'll hand over to you, Laura. What is your most foolish moment in the history of Newcastle United, in your opinion?
I just went for one of my favourite ever stories, and I don't think I'm going to do it justice, because the guy who told the original story is just the best storyteller ever. So if you haven't listened to Andy Woodman on Under the Cosh, please do, because it's absolutely brilliant. I've listened to it so many times because I just find it absolutely hilarious. He's such a good storyteller. And he was only on by mistake as well, because somebody else didn't turn up. And it's one of my favourite ever episodes. I love it. And it was one of my favourite ever stories from that was the 8-year deal for Pardew and all of the staff that he had as well. And it was just, I think I read earlier that it was the biggest deal that a manager and staff have ever had. And that is just typifies Mike Ashley, doesn't it? That they were out for a meal with the wives, in As You Like It, night before a game. Shouldn't have really been out, but he said, who cares? We'll just have a couple. Heard Mike Ashley was in the bar, shit himself, basically thinking, shit, me boss is there, I'm going to get wrong. Ashley and, who's the other one that was with him? Was it Lambias? Started getting the shots in. Was I really like you, you've done a great job. Now, to me, I really feel like Ashley probably didn't even know who he was, and he was just talking, giving it the big in, and after a few pints, but offered him the 8-year deal, and then had to go into work the next day, and he was a bit sheepish, and then Pardew calls him in his office and knew all about it, which I don't know how he would have. I don't know if Ashley's probably told him or if he's got spies or whatever, but Pardew knew about it and was you kind of take it, blah, blah, blah. And he was oh, sorry, Alan, sorry. And he was oh, no, it doesn't matter. He's given me an 8-year deal as well. I just find it absolutely crazy that in this bar in Jasmine that they were doing business, but that it just totally sums up the way Mike Ashley ran that football club. And then even Woodman's lawyer was you sign that bit of paper, you get a pen, you sign that bit of paper, and you get sacked straight away, because it's a full pay up as well. But then I'm gutted I didn't have time to re-listen to it. And there's a part of the story, and have any years listen to it.
Yes, yeah.
So where does Shark Bar come into it? Is that when they got sacked?
That was when they got sacked. So they were all,
and I knew Shark Bar was part of it.
Yeah, so they were all in there. There was Steve Stone, Carver,
yes,
Woodman. I think Pardew had gone to Palace,
right?
And then they were all kind of asked.
Yes, and
they were all asked one after the other. So Carver went in. He was peddled. He got his 8-year payout. Mm-hmm. Stone went in. He was peddled. He got his 8-year payout. And when Woodman went in, he was would really like to keep you on.
That was it. I couldn't remember, but it was the way he told it, and he was I ran over that pedestrian crossing outside Shark Bar. I was skipping up money in the bank. He went, my wife had packed her bags and everything. He had to go in and go, West End. Yes, that was it. I knew that I'd come into it, but I couldn't remember.
Laura, you did do it justice. You did do the story justice. That was excellent. Just before we move on, the Under the Cosh podcast, a few people have put in the comments about a player He used to play under Eddie Howe. He tells a few stories. I can't remember his name now. I'm sure somebody will go in the comments.
Oh, Keith
Tracy, that was it. Who was at Burnley when Eddie Howe was there, and apparently he took them on a little pre-season trip to the farm, and they were doing some sheep herding. And Keith Tracy wasn't very complimentary about Eddie Howe. However, it's worth bearing in mind that Keith Tracy was an absolute journeyman who ended up retiring in 2016. So at the age of 28 or however old he was. So let's take that with a big, huge pinch of salt. But Eddie Howe will do anything to get that team morale going, even if it involves sheep. Let's wait and see what happens in the summer in the summer break.
And he's already had them riding camels and that, hasn't he? So
yeah, man. He's just moved up. He's got more money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sheep, camels, llamas next.
Alpacas.
It's going to be like alpacas and llamas in the summer. You know what I mean? There's going to be videos of alpacas.
So not an extra ear. You sure?
Alpacas.
It's just alpacas.
Alpacas. Yeah. There'll be a video mic'd up of John Joe Shelby shaving an alpaca. I would pay. I'll pay a subscription monthly for that type of content. I'm telling you that right now.
I hope that's not an alopecia joke.
Oh, don't get me started. I mean, I suppose we should probably touch on one of the biggest incidents of this week that's caused absolute reverberations around the world. Everybody's talking about it, so we might as well touch on it. Emil Kraft's Cruyff turn against Poland. I mean, wow. What a piece of skill, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
That was amazing.
Wow. I mean, that was absolutely. I mean, I'll probably get a text off Chris in about 4 seconds saying, "Oh, you showing a video in it." So I do apologise if extra time gets taken off air indefinitely, but I just couldn't help it. It was just an absolute. That was the moment of the week for me.
You know what it is, Roger? When I used to play football, I used to be a right back because I wasn't really good at anything.
Me too.
And the one bit of skill I did a Cruyff turn, absolutely rinsed the left winger or whatever. And everyone, because they knew how shit I was, just went, "Way!" Next time I got the ball, he absolutely clattered us, and I never tried another bit of skill in my life. There's lessons to be learnt.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting Emil Kraft to come in and score a hat-trick against Spurs on the back of that.
Yeah, man.
I know.
He's opened the door to show how really good
probably
he is.
Be on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mancu's in for me. So hopefully we don't get a strike for that. Surely they don't watch everything. But we'll see. So those are our Hall of Fame nominations. Just a review. We've got I'm going to try and remember the order. I think it was Ian first with the headbutt. Yeah. So I was going to say we've got Ian's headbutt, but that might be
David Myler looks like he's enjoying that though, doesn't he? Like he's it's like quite a tender moment for him.
Yeah, man.
It does look like the audition for Strictly, doesn't it?
And then him in the background is
a
just
rumba.
Like, oh. Yeah, he's disgusted by it.
So we've got Ian's headbutt. We've got Scott's Joe Kinnear. Absolute joke. I suppose you could probably just take the whole Joe Kinnear episode from beginning to end rather than just one director of football. So Joe Kinnear's involvement with Newcastle United. I went with the Villa game against the Villa game in 2005 when there was a brawl on the pitch and then some real histrionics by a sniper attack by somebody from the back of the Gallowgate. Maybe it was the Gallowgate Pigeon, who knows?
Like someone of Dream Team.
And then Laura went with the ridiculous 8-year contract that was handed out to Alan Pardew. And
mine, can I just clarify, because I want to win. I think mine is more the story, not the contracts. I don't think that's that. Like, people won't vote for that. If you go and listen at Andy Woodman and that story. So if on like the poll, make sure you write the story of, because then people will vote for that, because it is a brilliant story if you listen to it.
He's only got 140 characters.
Yeah, man. He's such a diva.
The story of a contract.
That's syllables.
Words.
No, that's words.
I was doing so well.
We're doing. You're doing really well, Laura. Right, okay. It is a good story. It is a good story. What are you doing, Adam?
Getting Hyde off. That's what he
Getting
was.
getting Hyde off.
recording the wrong match.
Yeah, I know. Oh dear, watch out. So those are our choices.
I'm going to be the new host when you get Hyde off. Yeah.
Laura, you are welcome to it. You. Right. Hashtag Stu Mac. Hashtag the story. Okay. Right. So those are our choices for the.
Oh, he's gone again.
Oh, he's gone.
gone
Who's
already.
joined us live, and thank you also, obviously, to those people who join us. You what?
You went again.
I thought you had the plug pulled.
We literally thought you had been escorted from the. Wait, one. Oh, right back.
Oh, don't start. Oh, God. So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening. And just before we finish, April Fool's Day is obviously a day full of fun and frolics. And one of my favourite Newcastle players from the back in the day was Steve Watson. So happy birthday to Steve Watson. It was his birthday today. Famous for that throw-in. Famous for his flip throw-in, overhead cartwheel throw-in type thing, whatever it was. So happy birthday to Watto, one of the entertainers. So thank you very much for everyone who's joined us live and who's going to watch later on. Please remember to like and share, and please give the channel a subscription. £2.99 a month, and you get loads of extra content. You get to see lots of me, Laura, and obviously the lads as well. And people like Ian, who's he needs a bit of funding for his new Tinder Gold profile when he goes back on.
I'm not going back on it. I'm not going back on it. I refuse.
And Scott needs to save up for a new stand-up table as well, a desk for his studio.
I need to buy next
By the way,
manager when it comes out.
Scott, if we stay up
Yes.
on the last extra time of the season, I want you to play us a tune on your keyboard. I want to hear those ivories. I want to hear some. I mean, you don't have
do you
to
want
sing.
to know something? I can't play an instrument.
Is it just for decorative purposes?
It's a synthesizer, so it's for making sound. It just has a keyboard attached to the bottom of it. So I program it into the computer, and it does it for us.
Oh, very underwhelming.
I can do like little things, but I can't actually play.
Right. So, well, your mission is you've got to learn to play something. Even if it's chopsticks, just find something that you're going to play, because in celebration of us hopefully staying up at the end of the season, I want to hear you tinkle those ivories. Yeah, definitely. A couple of last shouts for Tino. There's a couple of Tino stories that are worth listening to. The one about his porn star girlfriend and watching the video on the way to an away game, and of course about shouting, screaming "Shearer, Shearer" at midnight out of the blue at the end of his drive. There you go. Happy days. So,
didn't Tino invent those T-Rex suits? The one that was in the Everton stand?
No,
I'm sure he was selling them like 3-4 years ago. I'm sure he was the one who brought them out, or he put his name to it or something. It was so weird. And he had a brand of condom. Tino's condoms.
Really?
I mean, you could probably do a whole episode on just Tino's misdemeanors, couldn't you? So there we go. Oh my God, that is absolutely shocking. You know what, Chris? You can do one. Not bad.
Oh, fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off!
That's what I think of that. Anyway, so thank you so much, Ian, Scott, and of course, the lovely Laura for joining us this evening. Everybody, enjoy the game at the weekend, 4:30 on Sky Sports. Watch out for the balloons and the banners from the Spurs fans. I'm sure they'll be absolutely fantastic. And hopefully we march on and get some more points already towards safety. Thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you again next time, where hopefully I don't get us kicked off the channel permanently. Say bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.